Hey guys, today's review is on the Cold Steel Swift 1. And as usual, we'll start out with the specs, move on to the features, talk about the pros and cons, and finish with the recommendations. So then you can decide for yourself if this is a knife that you would like to add to your collection or not. And I have a special treat for you as well. We're going to open up this guy so we can take a look at the assisted opening mechanism. So don't go anywhere. First, some specs. Hey guys, I'm Jay, and well, this is the Cold Steel Swift 1, and it's actually Cold Steel's very first attempt at a assisted opening knife. Now, the Swift is an assisted opening backlock with a, well, pretty good size spear point blade. Now, as with pretty much all backlocks, this is a closed construction there on the back, and if we go ahead and let's see, and as you can see, it is quite a bit wider than a pencil. Cold Steel did a pretty good job of the weight distribution, because if you look at here, yeah, it is balanced quite nicely. Let's go ahead and get a weight on this. 4.7, 4.6 ounces. That's not bad. I mean, this is a 4-inch blade. That's not bad at all. And that's going to be about the equivalent of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 AA batteries. As usual, now I'm not the biggest fan of the pocket clip here on the Swift, and you can see it is not a deep carry. It's that standard Cold Steel clip. However, you do get two clips, so one for righties and the other for lefties, and it is just tip up only. There's a little bit of jimping here on the Swift. Let's see if you go ahead and look at on the spine there of the blade, and then also right on the back lock. And it really, and now when I say jimping, I use that term loosely because it really seems as if it's more decorative than anything else, because it is not very functional at all. I mean, it just feels like some nice rounded bumps on the spine. I believe the centering here on the Swift was pretty good. Memory serves. Let's see. Oh yeah. Nice. Yep. Perfectly centered. Now, Cold Steel went ahead and gave us a really good size stop pin there, and a good lanyard hole as well for all of you lanyard fans out there. If you're not too crazy about this version of the Swift, actually Cold Steel offers a Swift 2, which is exactly the same size, same blade steel. However, it's in a black DLC coating, and the hardware is actually all black as well. Now, before we get to the pros and cons, I want to go ahead and bring in some other knives here, just so you can see how big the Swift actually is. So we'll bring in the Cold Steel Code 4, American Lawman, and of course the Paramilitary 2. And you know what? Do we have, let me bring in one more. There we go. Benchmade Griptilian. First, let's go ahead and talk about the good stuff of the Cold Steel Swift. And I've got to start out that list with, well, the assisted opening action it's pretty good. And it looks like that Cold Steel refers to it as Flash-Tek. Now, out of all of the Cold Steel knives that I actually own, I want to show this to you guys for comparison, is that, well, as you know, I mean, most Cold Steel knives, you know, there's that little gap there between the handle and like the blade tang. And on the Swift, it's actually a pretty small gap. Like if you look at the Lawman by Cold Steel, good size. I mean, so it's easy to get stuff kind of stuck in there. Keys, key rings. Same with the Code 4. But I have to say, out of all the Cold Steel knives that I have, this gap is actually the smallest. Now, if I can go ahead and draw your attention to the thumb studs here. I don't know if you can see that little slot there. So you can actually take off the thumb studs, which is nice, especially for those of you that use like those clamp style sharpeners. Yeah, you can take off the thumb studs, and then that way they will not obstruct your clamp. Now, I am a really huge fan of the triad back lock that Cold Steel likes to use. I mean, it's just, you know, what else can be said? It's a very strong lock. Now, another thoughtful feature is that if you notice here, this the cutout here on the spine of the blade. Now, it looks like that would be for your thumb, which, yes, you can use it for that as well, but also it's for when you're closing the blade. Now look at this, see? So it's a lot easier to get your finger on there for closing it. I just thought that was very, very thoughtful on Cold Steel's part. Now, since the blade stock is actually of pretty good thickness, if you look at the tip there, there's a lot of material. So that is going to be, well, a pretty strong tip. And I really like the ergos here. I can really get a great purchase, and the texturing here on the G10 provides just the right amount of grippiness. Very nice. I must say the backlock on the Swift is probably the easiest backlock that I have ever used. Very easy to depress, and then the blade just goes ahead and falls down. It's really nice. I hate to do it, but yeah, now we got to talk about some of the bad stuff. And I already touched on a couple of them, like the clip. Not a fan of that at all. And there's going to be a pretty fair amount of handle sticking out of your pocket there. Now, the assisted opening mechanism, it works for the most part, but I have noticed I get a lot of those failure to fires as well, and sometimes I even have to use a little bit of wrist to get it to consistently fly out. But, you know, I'm able to deploy it with just the thumb most of the time. But again, this happens a lot as well. When the Swift is actually closed up, it takes up a pretty fair amount of room in your pocket. I mean, it's not too thick this way, but the width across, it's pretty wide. So just so you know, that is going to take up a decent amount of room in your pocket. Now, the break-in period for this knife was unusually long. It's taken me quite a few months just to get it to the point where I'm able to get, you know, successful deployments consecutively. Well, see, just using my thumb without any wrist. It's taken a long, really long time to actually get to this point. For the most part now, I really do, I enjoy the assisted opening system here. Again, for the most part, I'm not 100% crazy about the design because it actually is very dependent on the friction between the blade and the G10 handle. And I found this out the hard way because I put a little bit of oil, well, it was actually probably a lot of bit of oil, accidentally on the pivot, and I set the knife down, and what I noticed was that since the oil reduced most, if not all, of the friction, I came back and the blade was slowly moving out. Because you know how, like with Kershaw's Speed Safe, you know, when you close a Kershaw knife, you get to that point where you've overcome that torsion bar, and then the blade just stays shut. Well, the Cold Steel Swift does not use that same design. There is constant pressure on the blade with that assisted opening system. There is never any torsion bar or spring to overcome. You're just always going to have pressure on the blade trying to push it out. Now, the last unsavory feature of the Swift is going to have to be the price. Now, you can find this for, I've seen it as low as $100 and as high as $135. And as you know, I mean, that's going to be, what, $30 or $40 more than the Code 4. It's pretty close in price to the American Lawman, but the Code 4 has very, very similar dimensions, same blade steel, and it's even lighter than the Swift. Now, at $130 for the Swift, it's really tough to justify purchasing it over the Code 4. I mean, the Code 4 is pretty much my favorite cold steel knife to date. So when I saw the price of this compared up against the price of this, I was shocked. I mean, what reason is there to purchase this over these other two? So I'd like to leave you guys with a question pertaining to the Cold Steel Swift. Would you consider this a collectible, seeing that it is their first assisted opening knife? Do you think that this would fall into that collectible category? I would really love to hear what you guys have to say about that topic, so please post your answers in the comment section below. So if you're a collector that's maybe looking to add some more pieces to that ever-growing collection, or just maybe somebody that's just looking for that one or two good knives to use as a tool, then go ahead and click on that subscribe, because I'm constantly uploading new videos several times a week. And if this video answered most of your questions about the Cold Steel Swift, then please leave a like. So I would like to thank you guys for stopping by, hanging out, and letting me well, talk knives with you. I really do enjoy it, and I will see you at the next video. You guys all take care.